Hi everyone. I appreciate you joining us today. My name is Hiram Fleitas. I'm a senior cloud solutions architect at Microsoft. Specifically, I focus on real-time intelligence, whether our customers are using the PaaS offerings, meaning platform as a service resources that are available in Azure, or they're using Microsoft Fabric, the real-time intelligence features that are available inside the SaaS offering, as in software as a service inside of Fabric. So there's a number of features there too. And the day-to-day is helping migrate customers, helping build content. And whenever I get the privileges to present and speak publicly, I'm super happy to do that. So that's a little bit about myself and what I do on a day-to-day basis. If there's any questions, this is meant to be interactive, no formal stuff here. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I haven't even combed my hair, to be honest. So I know we all have a lot on our schedule. The idea of this call is to kind of go through a hands-on lab and make this a little bit more hands-on. So if you have a Fabric environment with a trial, you can do the hands-on lab. If not, I could spin one up and you can use the username and password that I'll put into the chat for you to use. Now, it takes me a few minutes to spin one up. It might be better for the interest of time if you have already an environment. But if you don't, I want you to participate. I want you to take advantage of the lab, and I'll create one. That's not an issue.
What do we need for it? How?
To set up the trial, I'll give you a link. It's going through the E365 trial tenant. So you typically need an Outlook email. I guess if you want to do this while I cover some of the slides, I'll give you a link with the instructions. Give me one moment. Fabric RTI. So there is a trial tenant step here. It should take you maybe 30 minutes to do it. So I just pasted the link, and inside of that page, there's a README, and then it's just the steps. It's like step 1, 2, 3. If you just go through that while I cover the slides, that'd be super helpful. And if you get stuck throughout the process, just let me know. And by any means, if you guys want to come off mute or raise your hand, feel free to use those features. So I'll go through a few slides here to give you some context before we start the hands-on lab. In terms of what do we mean by real-time intelligence? What do we mean by these features inside of Fabric? So I hope everyone can see the slide deck. The slide deck has 56 slides. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm happy to share the deck or give you a link to download it for you to review it on your own. But I will pause at certain slides that are kind of important. The agenda of the slides is basically to convey what the opportunity of the use case is and emphasize the features, how Fabric provides a complete solution. And we continue to ship and enhance features to Fabric to meet the needs of our customers. So this will develop a single place. We find that a lot of customers that are using IoT workloads or industrial IoT, as well as transportation or automotive, they're able to leverage Fabric and rapidly implement a full-fledged end-to-end analytics solution. Therefore unlocking the opportunity to leverage technologies like Copilots over this data. There's a number of features that I'll talk about the Copilot and that are available inside of Fabric, and then give you more examples in case that you happen to be in other industries beyond manufacturing or beyond transportation, how these features could be applicable to your workload. So the context to this type of data is that it's growing very rapidly. We're seeing about the context of this data is like everyone has a cell phone nowadays. A lot of our day-to-day life is connected to the internet. The thermostats in our house, our appliances, All of these devices are streaming signals, whether it might be the GPS location of where your phone is located, the battery level of the thermostat, as well as the temperature of the room, and any number of other appliances that are constantly connected to the internet are logging continuously certain metrics about that device. And companies need large-scale data warehouses that or log warehouses per se, that are purposely built for time series, meaning data that is time-bound, whether it might be telemetry or metrics of CPU or memory allocation, consumption, things around that nature, or web traffic, user activity. In order to be able to run massive queries to solve issues like predictive analytics or predictive maintenance or needle in a haystack sort of situations, even for threat intelligence for cyber workloads. So the rate that volume of data is growing is exponentially, where we're at. The numbers might not be here on these slides, but we're expecting, just to give you some context of the consumption of Fabric, north of 900 petabytes per day. Currently, we're ingesting into this system, and Microsoft runs the largest cluster of the Eventhouse technology. Internally, that product is referred to as Kusto. The code name is Kusto. We deal north of 250 petabytes per day of new data that gets ingested. And because of the release of Fabric, that number is growing exponentially, and we're expecting it to hit 900 petabytes by the end of the fiscal year. So this technology really sets Fabric apart when you look at other offerings in other clouds. Not to name a few, but the rich set of compute features that are available inside of Fabric is not just the lakehouse. It's not just the data warehouse technology. The real-time intelligence features make Microsoft a stronger competitor in the market, and its technology, just like Power BI, that is unique to Microsoft, which is why you don't see it on other clouds that make our service more competitive against other services that are available. And what we strive to do is to give you a single platform that gives you that end-to-end analytics solution. Whether you're using it for ERP data or whether it's operational technology like oil refineries, transportation, telecommunication, things around this nature, that we refer to that as a little bit different than IT. We typically call that OT data, operational technology, as opposed to IT is traditionally information technology. So the organizations wanted to have a single platform, such as where they typically do business intelligence, where they typically do analytics, to also store their OT data. And the architecture to do this in the past has been very fragmented, very stagnant, very costly to manage. And the service of Fabric allows for customers to have a single a resource where it's predictable pricing. You can have allocated capacities, that the cost is manageable, and it lowers the total cost of ownership for you to spin up resources, tear them down, as opposed to having to implement PaaS offerings that you have to integrate together and authenticate and manage security across different resources. So what we're starting to see is the service can unlock a number of opportunities across very different verticals, whether, like I mentioned, manufacturing, automotive, and logistics are very popular. But for finance, energy, and retail and healthcare are also very appealing. Like retail, for example, the Cyber Monday scenario, whether you have an e-commerce website that you have to log web traffic to manage that traffic for the peak of your workload. So systems like the Kusto engine, it automatically scales up. We refer to the feature as predictive autoscale. Predictive autoscale is beyond reactive when there's CPU pressure or memory pressure. It can learn the pattern of your workload. It takes typically 6 to 7 days to learn this pattern, and it'll scale up and scale down after the peak and valley of your workload. So it's very applicable for healthcare. We also see an opportunity for point-of-care devices. Point-of-care devices, if you've ever been admitted to the hospital, you're wired to an EKG, and that EKG is streaming the vitals of your body to the nurse desk, and they're typically using Prometheus or something like this on premise to see the vitals of all the patients. So imagine technology like that being implemented and trying to do this analytics, whether they need to store it for historical purposes or not, across all hospitals, not just at the nurse, at the point of care itself. So I talked about the architecture. These are a number of other opportunities that are a little bit more detailed in different verticals to give you context of why it should matter, why you might want to learn about this stuff. And we really talk, when we refer to this real-time intelligence piece, is when the customer needs minimal latency. Like we're talking about milliseconds per se. Like the data has to be ingested in under 100 milliseconds or under 200 milliseconds, and it has to be readily available, not requiring transformation for analytics at that rate. So there, when we get into the hands-on lab, there's links to high-performance car manufacturers such as Porsche, McLaren, that are using this engine to give you the full historical telemetry of the engine on a car, or the cheapest car that they sell, or the least expensive one. It's $1 million. So these people do not like slow whatsoever. And they're leveraging the product for this minimal latency sort of analytics per se. Like I mentioned, Fabric has a multitude of features that can serve different type of workloads, whether for data science, the Lakehouse is very appealing. Data warehouse for heavy duty joins, like your typical fact dimensions, that you're going billions and billions of tables across and you're doing 10 joins per se. Your typical data factory for ETL pipelines, running notebooks for data engineering, and the real-time intelligence features, as well as Power BI or pre-can industry solutions. So the real-time intelligence pillar is composed of this specific items, or we used to call them artifacts inside of Fabric. So the Eventstream, think of it like as a messaging system. And what we did with Eventstream is that we basically put together event hubs and Azure Stream Analytics. So Event Hubs is kind of like a messaging system or a message broker, and Azure Stream Analytics will take those messages that are being streamed and allow you to do transformations over the stream itself, and then set a sync that you could route it to Cosmos DB, SQL, ADX per se, or even storage. And we put those two PaaS offerings into a single SaaS item, and we call that Eventstream. One of the cool things about it is that it can do CDC from relational data sources like Postgres, Azure SQL DB, and then you can stream the CDC's changes. At that point, since you're streaming them, the data becomes time-bound, meaning it now becoming time series. You can store it or land that data into the Eventhouse. The Eventhouse is that Kusto engine that was previously available inside of Azure, known as Azure Data Explorer. So the technology there is over 10 years old. We offer it inside of Fabric as the SaaS offering, where you don't have to t-shirt size VMs or cluster sizes, and it'll auto scale up and down for you. There's also a new visual experience called Real-Time Dashboard. This is a little bit different than Power BI, and what we refer to real-time dashboards are very similar to something like Grafana. So the differentiator there is that the person that's using a real-time dashboard, they're typically not doing business intelligence. They're not doing rich data story visualizations, but they're using visuals that give them minimal refresh, meaning the data is always live. There's no import per se. All the queries of each visuals, they fire against the data source, in this case, the Eventhouse, and the visual pane, even though it gives some parameters, slicing and dicing, cross-filtering, things of that nature, they're basic visuals like bar chart, line charts, anomaly charts, maps. But the the data is always live. It's always up to date, and it has an automatic refresh to refresh like the browser page that you're sitting on and you're watching, all the way down to like 1 second. And you can sit on the page without hitting refresh or F5 on your browser, and it'll just refresh automatically for you. An example that I like to use is if you've ever been to BJ's recently, there's a robot going down the aisle doing an inventory check. So think of the robot or the supervisor that's following the robot. They're using a tablet and they're monitoring the data that's coming out of the robot using a real-time dashboard. As opposed to the financial or the inventory management team, they might be using a product like Power BI to monitor sales and purchases, things of that nature, to do financial tracking for the entire region of the company. The other item that's available in RTI or real-time intelligence is the Reflex item. So this is the code name of Data Activator. Reflex and Data Activator are the same. Data Activator is like the marketing name, where you can create alerts and custom actions over the stream itself, meaning the data that's coming over Eventstream or the data that's being represented inside of a real-time dashboard. And these actions can be performed over pre-built ML models like anomaly detection, things of that nature, where you can create a simple action such as send me a Teams message or send me an email, or you could do more custom actions like by tying it together with logic apps or Power Automate. Power Automate will be part of the Microsoft platform, like the Power Platform, such as Fabric and Power BI. But you can tie it up to Power Automate. If you haven't heard of what Power Automate, think of it like as a workflow that has over 400 connectors, and you can do very advanced actions there. And not something as trivial as like, well, let me lower the price of an item so that I can get more sales, but something more intelligent, like develop a BOGO deal or a marketing campaign, things around that nature. So you can have very custom advanced actions with them. So we talked about the single place of service, the capabilities of the CDC, the different data sources that we support already for CDC, as well as Kafka on Confluent, which is another messaging system, or Kafka on-prem itself. You can use the KQL query set to develop scripts, run ad hoc queries, and still visualize your data using Power BI. Over all of this set of features, they make your data available inside of OneLake as well. So there's no silo per se. This next slide is kind of like a video demo. I'm not going to play it right now. How? Okay. Sorry about that. So I think we'll show a few more things in terms of what each of the features look like, but you'll get to play with this inside of the hands-on lab. So this is kind of like a screenshot of what Eventstream looks like, and you have different sources, different steps throughout the stream if you want to transform the data and destinations. You can also monitor the stream. This is what a KQL query set looks like, or the Eventhouse experience. And if you were to quickly click on explore your data, you get this pane where you could write KQL queries on. If you've never seen KQL, KQL stands for Kusto Query Language. It is the de facto language to do anything in terms of log analytics inside of Azure. Whether you use Active Directory logs or sign-on logs, Sentinel, Azure Monitor, Application Insights. All of those services, they provide a query experience that's native to the browser, and it's KQL. So we offer that experience beyond the log analytics workspaces or the SaaS offerings that I just mentioned as a standalone service called ADX. And there you get the full-fledged experience, the full-fledged power of the language, meaning you get control commands, you get more advanced machine learning plugins. And it's this pipe notation. I mean, it's similar to PowerShell, where you take a tabular expression and then you pipe an additional command to it, such as a filter, an aggregate, a visual even, like you could do pipe render. And inline in the query, you get the tabular expression result set inside of the query pane, and you get the visual as well. So it's very agile, very rapid to develop. A lot of developers related to PowerShell, like I mentioned, or Link query. And this is a screenshot of Data Activator, or the reflex item, where you can create models and triggers based on those models. And then inside of the trigger, you define the action. This is an example of a connected factory for like industrial IoT, where they have an IoT gateway of all of, like, think of ovens that build light bulbs. All of those ovens run through a programming sequence that they have to decompress the oxygen out of the chemical so that it doesn't become too brittle. This very common example is like how blood tubes are built for that get used at hospitals. So the appliances are electronically connected to an IoT gateway, and the IoT gateway connects all of the appliances in the factory to Azure or Microsoft Fabric. They come in through the IoT hub or IoT operations services into Eventstream, from Eventstream into Eventhouse. Eventhouse makes the data available in OneLake. If there's ERP data per se or historical data, it could be pumped via batching as well through Data Factory and into OneLake or into the Eventhouse. And then it could be consumed by Power BI or the real-time dashboards or Reflex for presentations and visualizations. And on top of this, via OneLake, you could use the data engineering features to develop your own custom ML models for forecasting, anomaly detection, and so on and so forth. So that's very common for our industrial IoT customers that have these sort of appliances. Within Fabric, you have this new feature called Real-Time Hub. So think of Real-Time Hub kind of like a OneLake hub, but for streaming data sets that you can govern, you can endorse, and then you could see all of these streams, or referred to as data in motion, whether it's coming through CDC or it's coming through IoT hubs per se, and you can browse all of them within your workspace and start to develop analytics over them, or reports over them, or even actions over them. And this creates a feature inside of Fabric. Like, let's say someone edits a Power BI report and you want to create an alert or a message to teams that send that person perhaps some upskilling content, like, hey, these are the templates that we typically use for our organization. So not just as, think of it as operational data, but data that's activity inside of Fabric. You can use the real-time hub to detect those events. And you can do things like trigger a notebook, trigger a pipeline, all over the stream of these events that are happening within the Fabric workspace. So this is the lifecycle management that I can't remember the name of this feature, but you can create visual representations of the lineage view of your items inside of your workspace. The real-time hub has this get events button, similar to like a Power BI has a get data button, and it gives you this wizard that you can click your way through defining new sources, whether they're CDC from Azure Cosmos DB or SQL, or existing hubs, or Confluent Kafka, for you to start bringing that data into your analytics service. I think this slide is a little bit repetitive. Let's get into the hands-on lab. How's that sound? Yep. Okay. So I see Ceci agreeing with that. So I'll come off the PowerPoint here and I'll share the screen, and we'll go to a link, and then we'll see what we could do. And I'll do the lab myself along, so folks can either follow me or they can try it out on their own. So I'll go to the website here where the lab is hosted, Fabric RTI workshop. I'll paste this to the chat. All right. So if you happen to go to that website, if you want to follow along, it's going to give you some context. Like, it's going to give you some introduction here. And this is the same workshop that we ran for FabricCon as well as other events. Like it shows you, it gives you context of other customers that are using the platform, the authors of the repo, and it's this next sort of experience. So if you hit next, then it explains the features again, how you can use shortcuts to bring data from other systems without having to ETL it across. Some of the features that we use, like materialized views, the OneLake logical copy, some of the features that are important inside of the Eventhouse, such as dynamic fields, because you can store the data we refer to as in semi-structure, where you don't have to pull out. A lot of this signal data is in JSON format, so you don't have to pull out or flatten the JSON. Sometimes it'll be multi-level, and you can drop map some of the fields into a column where you can still refer to them or store the full record in dynamic format. And then when you read from that column, you can just use the dot notation. The KQL language itself, we already talked about most of these features. Copilot I haven't covered much, but Copilot inside of the query set, the unique feature about it, like you need an F64 to go through this, but when you ask it for certain information in plain language, it's going to parse the schema. It doesn't run the query for you. It doesn't look at your data, but it parses the schema and it gives you a query that you can click on insert, and it'll bring the query to the query set that the human can edit that query if they want to. So it has this adverse effect of somewhat teaching you KQL. And it doesn't supersede the human interaction by simply just giving you the answer to your question. In this case, the question was, what is the total number of bikes and total number of dogs by neighborhood? So this is using like a sample data set that we have for bicycles in the city of London. And that was the question that the screenshot had. And then it gives the user the suggested query, and then they click on insert. And you could see previous questions on here as well. Then once they paste it there, they click on run, and it shows you the distribution of the result set for the question. So think of in the context of the lab that you have a website and you happen to sell bicycle merchandise. So on this website, as you can imagine, it's based on AdventureWorks. There's a table called product, there's a table called product category, and there's this new table called events. So events has a different type of events, like hypothetically someone clicked on the product and possibly someone searched and they just saw the impression of the image. So think of an impression event as the result of the search result, and the click is like they searched and they also clicked on the thing. So when they click, it kind of gives them more details, so on and so forth. So we'll have an architecture to bring this data in. Possibly they're using something like SQL to write some transactional data on there, and we'll bring it into Fabric for analytics. So we'll generate the live traffic of users hitting the website using a notebook. The notebook is, think of it more like a simulator, and the notebook is going to stream the simulation activity into Eventstream. The Eventstream is going to write it to the Eventhouse, and the data will be available to the Lakehouse as well via shortcut. Then we'll create a real-time dashboard over this data of the stream and some actions over it. Some basic actions, possibly. It's a little more context on the tables themselves, whether you have a click or an impression that's being ingested over the stream. Some other tables will ingest them using shortcuts as opposed to a pipeline. And this is not a matter of a best practice thing. It's just to show the different types of ingestion methods, so bringing the data into the Eventhouse or into Fabric. Some customers like the shortcut method to quickly see what's available there. Others prefer to ETL the data for analytics so that it'll be ingested locally and it'll be more performant. Another important thing is that we'll build a medallion architecture inside of Fabric here. We'll have a bronze layer, a silver layer of the bronze tables being transformed into silver tables. We'll do that transformation via a feature inside of the Eventhouse called update policies. So update policies will take a function And then the update policy triggers automatically based on new events being inserted. And it only triggers on the data that gets loaded per batch or per record of the stream. And then ultimately we'll get a materialized view that's going to give us the gold layer that we can use for reporting. So there's a little more context here on each of those objects. There's a prerequisite to do this lab. If you don't have a trial tenant, one will be provided for you. There's some settings on the trial tenant that you have to enable the real-time dashboards, things around that nature. And if you've never, like level 100 stuff, these are recommendations if you want to learn a little bit more on how to write your first KQL query, because the hands-on lab is going to get into it pretty fast. So the first thing we want to do is log into the lab. So we'll open this website. We'll see if I can log in. Let me open this in a separate browser. And how do I do that? Move, no. I'll cancel. And let's do this on a separate browser. On my personal browser, because if I do it on that browser, it's going to go to my Microsoft tenant. I don't want it to do that. So let me see if I have something on here that I can try this with. Maybe this one. Do I have that username and password? I don't think I do. Maybe this one? Nope. Maybe this one. And Ceci, did you happen to run through the trial tenant setup by any chance?
I actually created the fabric capacity.
Okay.
I had an F2, but I created an F64 just in case.
Okay. If you have a username and password that you want me to try out, I can walk through the lab with that. For the fabric capacity that you mentioned. I think I could use this one. I have this one. So yeah, let's do. So what I'm going to do here is I logged in with another account. I'm going to hit free trial to activate that. Then it kicks off the trial. Very important to hit free trial if you don't have one. Because if you want to use the Fabric features, you have to do this free trial. Otherwise, it'll just give you the Power BI features. So now I get the real-time intelligence button here. If I go to the lab, the first thing it's going to have me do is create an event house, if I'm not mistaken. So new workspace. Okay, I don't want to do a new workspace, I think. I'll just click here on real-time intelligence. Yeah, let's try new workspace. I'll do RTI workshop. Then advanced here, I'll do trial. That's the default. Let's see if it lets me. Okay, it gave me a workshop. I mean a workspace. And you normally don't create a workspace to do your analytics. In this case, the trial tenant that I had didn't have a workspace. So the other method is some folks do the lab on my workspace, but we kind of like recommend using a dedicated workspace to do the lab. So all right, we got that. It doesn't matter what we call it. I think in the lab here is telling me to call it our RTI tutorial. So now let's do new item event house, and I'll call the event house whatever. New item event house. There you go. Perfect. Event house. I am going to go fast through this, but if you need me to slow down or pause me, just come off mute. So I'll do RTI workshop event house. I normally don't do like the item acronym in it, but I'm going to do that now just for the sake of this environment. That should take a few seconds to spin up. There you go. What's the next thing? So the next thing it wants me to do, it gives me some more context, how it's purposely built for real-time data. The data is time-bound or time-based, like streaming events, telemetry, things of that, logs, things of that nature. Then it talks about enabling OneLake availability. So this is not enabled by default. I'll go ahead and turn it on. So it gives me this next sort of walkthrough. I'll hit next. One more time, got it. And then I'll click on the database and I'll turn on OneLake availability here. If it lets me. Oh, here we go. So it's right here on the right. So I'll just hit turn on, apply to existing tables, sure. So the reason for that checkbox is that existing tables will inherit the setting of the database itself. So if they were existing, in this case, it was a brand new database, so there was no existing tables, but if I wanted to override them, that's the reason for that checkbox. So what's next? We turned that on, we enabled OneLake, turned on, yes. Now it wants me to create an event stream. All right, so I'll go back here to my workspace. New item, event stream, hit event stream, perfect. And it wants me to call it web event stream ES, okay. So there we go, now it came up, web event stream ES, okay. And this is not unique to anything, it's just an alias. It wants me to enable the enhanced capabilities. I don't need to do that for this lab, but I'll just go ahead and do that. Just to give you some context here, the enhanced capabilities are specifically for the CDC connectors. So if you were bringing data from Postgres, Cosmos DB, or Azure SQL, you'll need this turned on. But if I recall correctly, like it limits the controlling the retention of the event stream. Sometimes customers want to go beyond the default of 1 day. So I recommend turning this off, like not using that. And sometimes they want to increase the throughput to up to north of greater than 100 megabits per second. So if you don't want to use the default throughput, then also turn this off. Don't turn that on. And I most likely by Ignite will have the feature parity where it's not going to be a prompt. So all right, this first thing I'm pretty sure it's going to want me to do is to create a custom endpoint. Let me check. So yeah, custom endpoint. All right, click on that, bam, bam, bam. I'll call it custom source. So custom endpoint. It doesn't matter, again, this is what it's going to do, is give me an Event Hub URI. So for that to actually publish, I mean, for that to give me to create the actual artifact, I have to click on publish here. And this is part of that preview feature sort of thing. If I hadn't turned that on, it would have created the Event Hub without me hitting publish nonetheless. And what I mean by that is that now when I click on it, it shows me the Event Hub and it shows me the keys. So when I click on keys, this is the actual infrastructure that's underneath it, the name of the hub, and it gives me the authentication to it. So for me to see that key or to be able to copy it, I want to copy this whole connection string. I have to click on the I for it to show it to me, and then I can click on copy. And then I'm pretty sure it's going to have me create a notebook. So I copy the key, click on that, bam, 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 and then it wants me to download this notebook. So I'll open this in a new tab. Let me see if I could drag this across somewhere.
Can I go back to the custom endpoint because I don't see that option on my side.
Did you check the box type of thing? Where it said
Enable
preview? If not, then it's okay. Okay, if you didn't, just hit on the top, add source, and it'll be on the list. Like there'll be. Yeah, custom app is the same thing. Yep. You're welcome. All right, cool. So now I got to download the notebook. So I'm gonna hit download here on the right, so I don't have to copy anything. And then just save that. Save it there. Doesn't matter, I'll save it to my downloads. And then I'm gonna upload it to Fabric. So I'll go to my workspace. And then if I'm not mistaken, yeah, import from this computer. I choose import notebook from this computer. And the lab has like instructions how to do this upload. And it's in my downloads, so it's this file. Then it should show up here on the list of my items. Yeah, there's the notebook. Perfect. And then I have to paste the connection string that I have in my clipboard. So I'm going to paste the connection string here. Just replace this whole string here. Just like keeping the codes, and I'll hit paste. So now I got that string, and then it wants the name of the hub. So I'll go back to the Eventstream, and I'll click on copy. Again, here under events, custom endpoint, or whatever I called it. Click on keys, copy the name of the hub by just clicking on the paper stack. And then I'll go back to the notebook. And then I'll paste that there. So the notebook will auto-save. There you go. So if notice that it auto-saves, otherwise I can do save as. And then the trick to this is just to hit, notice how it has an environment. I don't have to use like a dedicated environment per se, but the trick here is just hit run all. You don't have to do anything else. Like you don't have to run the individual code cells as run all. So now it's going to connect, and you don't want to do this in a private browser. You have to have like a regular browser, because what's happening is that Fabric is keeping track of your activity of the notebook, and it uses cookies to do that. So if you have a private browser, it's not going to even likely acquire a session. So if you notice down here on the bottom, it said connecting and acquired a session. It told me like I got a session in 9 seconds, and then it's starting to run the code cell. And it's telling me what code cell is on. So the first code cell is the one that's going to take the longest. This should take maybe about 5 minutes, because it has to install some libraries that are currently not there by default. Specifically, the Event Hub one is the one that we need. And Faker is going to generate the simulated data of users going to the website and clicking and searching, things around that nature. Those are being used down here. I'm not going to like drain the code cell of the notebook, but this is all PySpark. You can read it through. At the end of the day, what it does is that it connects to the Event Hub, and it sends the events to Eventstream. So the Event Hub is using the same endpoint as Eventstream, and it creates a batch of those messages, and it'll print them also to the notebook. So you could kind of see the activity going on here. The last code cell is just to echo to the notebook what it's doing, but really the main one that that runs the events is this one here, generate events. And then generate events gets called right here in line 3 to produce events. So again, this is going to take 5 minutes. While that runs, let me see, go back here, see what else it wants me to do. It should not fail, by the way. If the notebook does fail, just refresh the browser. Like if Fabric acts up on you, I basically refresh the whole browser here. All right, so we downloaded it. I hit run all. I updated the connection string. It's okay that it gives you these little errors on the first code cell. This is normal. And then the last code cell should kind of look like that. And then it tells me to go back to the event stream, and I should see the activity, and then I start to define the additional steps on the event stream. So we'll go back here to the node. It's already at code cell 5, so perfect. I should be able to, that was pretty fast. There you go, I got data going on already. So the first code cell took less than 5 minutes, so I'm perfect. Well, wait. Currently take into account packages the following conflicts with which packages conflicting. I do not know, but at the end of the day, my function is running. Otherwise, I wouldn't be seeing this. Otherwise, because I will be getting errors if there was an issue with a package or a dependency that I needed. All right, so I'll go back to Eventstream. And I should be able to click on the middle item here and hit refresh. I should see a preview of the data on the stream. Yeah, so it's showing me a preview of the data in JSON. It automatically detected that the stream format is JSON, and it's showing me so if I have different formats, I can switch them to Avro, it's very common too. Or if there is CSV or text per se, I can use CSV. But I am sending data in JSON format. So I think the lab, what it wants me to do is a transformation. So the transformation here is very simple. It's just going to do a filter. So we'll add the step to do a filter. So I'll do what? How do I do filter here? Transform events, and then I'll click on transform events here at the top and do filter. So I'll link this one to that one. You see, or if I click on the plus, I can do filter. Yeah, there you go. So like that, it's linked. I'll delete that one. So then I'll edit the filter. It wants me to do a filter on what? On click events filter, event type equals click. Event type equals click. Oh, here we go. Event type equals click. And I'm pretty sure this is case sensitive, so I'll just do it all uppercase like that. Clicks. Yeah. Oh, click. Not clicks. And it wants me to call it this, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be called that. I'll just leave it as filter one. All right, so it has an error. Why do you have an error? The operation is missing an output. All right, so no problem. We'll define the output next. So hit save. Click is in all caps. Yes, thank you. And then we'll do the stream. All right, so we'll do a stream next. Plus stream. So this is kind of like a derived stream in case we want to have an application consume the stream itself. A lot of the times we have customers that have line of business applications, and they're kind of like using Eventstream as a messaging platform for other applications to read from that messaging system. So this will give me a derived stream that it can be used as a consumer. I mean, so you not only do you have a subscriber, you also get a publisher. So you get the full pub sub. So now it wants me to set that stream to Eventhouse. All right, so we'll set the stream to Eventhouse. Is it Eventhouse? That does make sense. Oh, from the stream, add another. So now it wants me to add another thing. Stream name, click event stream. Okay. So it wants me to have a name. Click event stream. And I'm going to specify for that stream to be in JSON format as well. And then I'll hit plus and I'll choose Eventhouse as the destination. So the Eventhouse wants me the destination name, click events for this, doesn't matter. I think it's just going to be the name of the table. Eventhouse, select the Eventhouse, the table, and then create a new table called bronze clicks. All right, so destination name, I'll just call it bronze clicks there. It's in the same workspace, so I'll choose my workspace, my Eventhouse. The database should be the same name. It's automatically populated from the pick list. And then it's parsing to see if I have any tables in there. I don't. So I'll just say create new table. Put the name of the table. Bronze clicks. And then it's in JSON format. And then I'll just do activate ingestion after the data. After the data what? After adding the data source. Okay. So yeah, I think that should be okay. So what are you doing here? It's telling me to edit the stream. So it wants to filter. Okay, so don't activate this because it wants me to edit something. Or should I do that? I don't know. Okay, I'll leave it checked. And then it wants me to edit something. So I have another plus here. Why do I have to click on another plus? To do another filter. Okay, so we'll do, I see what it's trying to do. It's because this is the filter on click, and I'm sure it's going to do another filter on impressions. All right, why do you not insert a node? Okay, so I'll do another filter. And then delete this one. So this filter, it's going to go down here. And then I'll link this one to that one. Come on, link. Okay, perfect. So this one is for clicks. Call this one, let me rename it. Instead of filter one, I'll call it clicks. Or click. So I could tell them apart. And then this one, it's going to be called impression event filter. Okay. There was a little error pop up there because I'm still defining my pipeline here. So again, it's probably going to be an event type, and then what was it? Impression equals impression. Yeah, I'll hit save. Hit save, all caps, yes. Then that thing, it wants me to do another stream and impression event stream, okay. And then we'll sync that to the event house. So stream. Click on the pencil. It has a space on there, okay. Get rid of that space, hit save. And then to the event house. And you don't need to do all this filtering. You could send it straight to the event house. I think what we're trying to show here is the capability of the Eventstream feature, how you can filter upstream. But I could land it all inside of a single table and then filter inside of the event house. So destination name and bronze impressions is the name of the table. So the same database, the same event house. We'll just create another table. Same workspace. This is automatically populated, perfect. And it's trying to detect my tables. There's none yet because I haven't hit published. I'll hit create new. And then I'll paste that there. Hit done. And then I'll hit save. You see this one? So there's bronze clicks. after providing these values, hit save. All right, why is that like that? I guess that's a screenshot. And then we'll hit publish. Bam, bam, bam. And after publish, it should go streaming. It should say streaming like that. And I could kind of like move this stuff around so it's a little bit easier to read, but it'll do that automatically for me. All right, cool. It committed successfully and published. So we'll just hit refresh here on the top. It's loading. All right, let's see. It's trying. I don't know what that error is. Then it wants me to do a lake house with some reference data. Open that in another tab. And we're going to download 2 files there. All right, so download this one. Save to my downloads folder. A nifty thing here is that I could actually copy this URL or take the raw one. Like if I click on raw, I could take this one and actually import it right from that URL string too. Could do all sorts of fancy stuff. So I think the reality is that in the real world scenarios, you'll receive a file and then you gotta import that file. And the file is in storage somewhere. So now we got these 2 files and we're gonna import them. Go back to the workspace, new item, new lakehouse, call it lakehouse something. All right, so we go back to the workspace. This is still loading, that's okay. Create a new lakehouse. And I'll call it RTI workshop lakehouse. I could enable schemas if I want to, but if I do, it gets a little bit interesting. So I'm not going to do that right now. The issue with the schemas is in order for you to create a shortcut, you have to right-click on the schema to create a shortcut. If you don't choose the schema, then it creates the shortcut as a schema. So I'm not going to turn on schemas right now, but it could be done with schemas if you want to. All right, so to that lakehouse, we're going to upload the reference data that we just downloaded. So I guess it's just straight up upload files. All right, so go back to the lakehouse, hit upload files, and they're in my downloads folder. This one and that one. Hit open, upload. So this should upload the files, but not create tables. I should basically just have CSVs inside of my lakehouse. Let me go back. Yeah, so I hit upload, and then if I go to files, if I close this, if I go to files, there you go, I got that, but I still don't have any tables inside of my lakehouse. So what are the next steps? Perfect. So right click on those files and load to table, new table, and give it a name. Pretty interesting, pretty simple. All right, cool. So we'll do the first one. Load to tables, new table. It auto-populates. And then the next one is just products. Back to files. Load to table, new table. It took a second there for me to get the new table option. So no worries. Then what's next? We got 2 tables, We want to do a shortcut next. All right, so shortcut to what? To the event house, and then we have bronze clicks and impressions. All right, so we'll do tables. We'll click on tables, get data, new shortcut. I want to be inside tables, not files. So, come on. All right, so get data, new shortcut. Hopefully this works. If the event stream is running to the event house, I should see the tables here. Oh yeah, they're there. So probably check both of these. You see? Yeah, check both of those. Bam. And next. And then create. So now I got those two shortcuts. You may return to that after running the create all. There is always a create additional tables. You may proceed selecting just bronze. All right, so we'll do. There's a create all files, I think. Did I skip that? I think this is the first time I get the create all. All right, so now it wants me to build. Yeah, I created these, so let's make sure our shortcuts are there. There you go, there's the shortcuts. If I click on one of them, I should see some data maybe. Oh, not yet, okay. So this could take a few minutes for the shortcut to start being seeded. So what's happening is that the event house is mirroring the data out to OneLake, and we don't duplicate the cost. We just bill for that once. OneLake actually owns the meter of the storage there. All right, so next is what? I did the shortcut, no? Hold on, I got lost here. We got our tables, built the schema. So in this section, deliver silver functions and update policies to tables, product category. Data is not being copied. So to do so, we'll go to the event house, and why is it doing a shortcut? Okay, so it wants to do a shortcut the other way around now for the files that we imported, so for products. Okay, so let's go to the database and then get data. I don't like that. Let me do the drop down, and it was what? Shortcut somewhere. What if I do shortcuts here? Nope, no right click, it doesn't like that. New related item, nope. Oh, new, okay, maybe. OneLake shortcut, all right. I have OneLake. Select my lake house, and then tables, and then it's product and product category, or is it just products? I guess both. It's doing both. Yeah. All right, so we'll do one at a time. It would be nice that I could do both, but we'll do one at a time. Products. All right, cool. And then new. Again, OneLake shortcut. Lake house. Product category. Hit create. Right, so now I got those shortcuts here. So it kind of shows you the story of leveraging OneLake to access the data across any compute engine without having to ETL it, all within Fabric, and not duplicating the data. So next I can write some KQL queries. It wants me to run the create all, which I have it open, I think. Open this in another tab. Come on, you broke that link. See what that link is pointing to. Yeah, that link is not valid. So I'll just find it here in the repo. So it's going to be under the tutorial. There's a KKO folder, and there's the Gradle. So I'll just hit copy here on the top right, and then I'll go to the workspace. So here in the database, I can just hit explore data, and it'll start to give me a query set. So there you go, that's the query set. And the query set has some links here on KKO guides. If you're coming from SQL, kind of like a cheat sheet on SQL to KKO. But a basic KKO query looks like this. Imagine your table name, and then you pipe something to it. So if I wanted to see 100 rows from the bronze clicks, it is case sensitive, so I'll type bronze clicks, and IntelliSense should help me here. And then I can just hit Shift Enter on the keyboard. I typically don't take my hands off the keyboard and go click on Run to grab the mouse. I just hit Shift Enter. So what the query editor is doing is that it knows where my cursor is sitting, and notice that it's highlighting those 3 lines. So it interprets all those 3 lines as one code snippet. So when I hit Shift Enter, it runs that entire statement, regardless of where my cursor is sitting. Now, if it's sitting down here, it's still part of that query. Notice how it's still highlighting that. If it's down here, if I do Shift Enter, it'll run this one. It's not a valid query because there's no such table with this name. And then it returns an error. So there's no such thing as like when you hit run, it runs this snippet and this snippet and this snippet. Typically, we call that a database script. And they'll be together like this with a semicolon in between as a single snippet. So don't be worried that you have to highlight them and then hit run. It knows automatically to highlight where your cursor is sitting. In this case, it's right there after the letter T. So anyways, if I do a take 100 or take or limit, limit, also sample. These are very common. Like if you want to preview what the rows kind of look like, and if you want to click on them and see them a little bit more in detail on the right side of the pane, you can click on them. Some folks like to expand them like this, but I like to, when they're long JSONs, I like to see them on the right versus the below view. The below kind of looks like that. It takes less real estate. So on the right, I can see the entire JSON path. I can interact with it like this. I can copy it if I want to. I can take it to a full screen. So when I'm traversing the JSON and using the dot notation, it's easy for me to copy these fields and just paste them into the query editor. What I mean, for example, is something like this. So right now we're in the bronze table, bronze click, and I want to grab, let's say, just the IP address. So I'll do project. The name of the column happens to be what I think is user agent. So user agent dot, and then IP address is at the root of the JSON, like it's not nested. So I guess let's grab IP address first, and then I'll grab also one of the nested ones. So user agent dot extra payload, and then inside of extra payload, I have the URL, for example. So if I shift enter here, and now that's hitting the entire table. I want to cast this as a string, so do toString, and do this toString also, possibly, and I'll limit that to take 100 so that it doesn't hit the entire table. So for some reason it's not, I have something wrong there. See, so it's not on every row, or was it user agent? No, it was extra payload maybe. Or was it refer? Which table was it? Bronze clicks. So not every row has that. So what I could do is just grab one of these simple ones. Like let's say I want platform. I'm supposed to, because I would have to filter where this is not null, and then, or I could say where I could filter first where user agent has IP address. No, okay. I don't think it was that column. All right, well, bad example. Obviously, I haven't tried this out before, but the point of this part of the task, not to burn too much time, is that we want to create the create all. So this is like the ability to create more tabs here. So I'll rename this tab to create all. And I could save this entire thing as a query set. It should be saving for me automatically. And I could use Copilot there. So the create all was here. I'll hit copy again. And this whole thing is an actual database script. So what's happening is that I'm passing a control command. The control commands are denoted with a period in front of the command. And it's saying execute this database script. And the database script is on the right side of this operator. So this, we call this operator pipe to the left, meaning whatever is on the right side of the pipe, I'm going to pipe it to the left side of my command. And on the right side of the pipe, I have a bunch of other control commands. Like these are create table commands, and they have their data types for columns. You could do comments, pardon me, in between, but they're still together, so it's still all part of the same database script. And then it's going to do a function using some metadata for the folder, the name of the function. It doesn't take an input parameter. As you can see, it's just open and close, but I could do an input parameter there. Then the body of the function is denoted with the ellipses, and then it's a table expression using more operators. But that's the function. Then it turns on the update policy. So the update policy is a feature that I talked about. It's going to automate the transformation for me. Think of this kind of like a mini ETL or as a SQL trigger. So it takes the destination that you turn on the update policy on, meaning the target, and then inside of the policy, you specify the source table and the query. In this case, the query is going to be the KQL function that we defined in the previous step, and then some additional parameters to turn it on or off, whether we want it to behave as an ACID transaction or not. For throughput reason, this is turned off by default. It's set to false, but some customers may want it set to true so that it doesn't write to the bronze table if it fails to transform to silver. And there's a number of other things there, not to go deeper into it, but it continues with more commands. So I'll hit Shift Enter, or I could have hit Run, and it completes asynchronously all of those commands successfully. So I'll go back to the lab here. What's it want me to do next? After the create all, I get completed, create another tab, and do what? So if you hit refresh, all the stuff should be there. Why did you want me to do another tab? Oh, that wasn't another tab. It was just to rename the tab. So if I go back to the workspace and I expand the database, it should have the functions. Yeah. So there you go. I have functions. All of that got created through. If I go to materialize views, there is none yet. Okay. So let's see. All right, so we'll do some sample data. I think this is just to show you where you can get samples. In this case, like I'm generating fictitious data using the notebook. But if you wanted to play around with other data sets that are very useful for you to learn how to deal with some of this streaming technology, you can just click on Get Data and choose Sample. And then we have the very common New York yellow cab taxi data. That's automotive operations here. There's weather data. It's very common as well for like storm events, the stock ticker for different stocks, like video game analytics, whether you're trying to do player or heat maps, things around that nature. Syslogs is very common as well, like server performance, network appliance syslogs, so that you could do. It talked about that needle in a haystack issue or threat intelligence over substrings or string manipulation or regex. This is a very good sample to play with. Metrics, if you're coming from a technology like Azure Monitor, like if you want to monitor SQL performance, this data set has sample data sets of SQL performance metrics that you can write KQL and develop dashboards over. So we'll come back here, and the next step is going to be to create our real-time dashboard. It should kind of look like here. I'm not going to create it from scratch. I know we have 20 minutes left, so I'm just going to copy the download it and import the dashboard. So I hit save here, I download this one, and I'll import it. So I'll go back to the workspace, create a new dashboard, and I'll import the dashboard. So new item. Let's see if it's enabled. I'll just put dashboard here. Yeah, real-time dashboard. And I'll call it RTI workshop. Let me see what it wants it to be called. Or does it matter? Web events dashboard. Doesn't matter. I don't think so. Well, it's going to walk me through connecting and then creating each one. You see what I called it here. RTA dashboard, that's what I called it. All right, so we'll call it the same thing, RTA dashboard. And this is just that I can import it and the JSON won't fail because it has a different name. So I'll do manage, replace with file. And this is the JSON for the dashboard. Then it's going to give me a bunch of errors probably because I need to change the data set. So I'll go to data sources here. And let me see, can I edit this one? Edit, yeah. And then I'll choose OneLake Data Hub. And then it's this Eventhouse inside of my workspace. The display name is just an alias. So I hit apply, close. Let me refresh some of this. Oh, it doesn't work. All right, so delete all of this. Actually, you know what? Let me do a new page. And how do I do a new page? Oh, here, add page. So we'll call this RTI workshop page. Delete this page. And then let's do it through the manual method. So it wants this. I already did the connection. So it's add tile. Paste that. And if I hit run, nope. Okay, I got some data. So then what? Add visual, and this is going to be area chart, clicks by hour. Let me split the screen here so it kind of make my life easier. Split screen, and I'm going to split it to the workspace. All right, so add visual, click by hour, and cancel that. I don't know why I got that pop-up. Area chart, and then the rest should infer automatically. Yeah, they infer it automatically. That's it. So the visual doesn't have to be exactly the same. This one might have been running a little bit longer, so it'll smoothen out nonetheless. Like this data has just started to stream in now. There's something about the parameters. So the parameters here, if I change this, okay, so it is working. So if I do the last 7 days, the notebook is simulating data, not just for like the current. Notice that today's the 22nd. I have a data activity as of the 22nd already, but up to 1500 in UTC. But I also have the historical. So the notebook is generating fictitious scenario at random data points over the historical as well as the most recent. So that was clicks by hour. It wants me to play with parameters next. So let's go to parameters, manage parameters, time range for some reason. What do you want to do here? So I want it to default to 7 days. That's done. There was no need to change that. I think because it defaults to 1 hour, or maybe it changed this to this default because I did the import when I did the replace with file. All right, so now we want to do another tile, a new tile, and then it's another area chart. So run that, hit run, add visual, area chart. This is going to be called what? Impressions by location, or yeah, impressions by hour, sorry. Like it says in the comment. All right, save. All right, we got that. Then we want to do a map. So new tile, you run, should render a map, maybe. Why didn't you render anything? Okay, so I hit run again. I think I had highlighted something where I clicked on run too fast before I pasted the query. And then it's going to be called impression by location. So in order for the map to render, I need the query output to appear, even though it's in tabular format right now. So for it to be a map, I just scroll down here and I choose map. Notice that in line 6, it has a render operator, and then it's passing a scatter chart, but it's saying I want the scatter chart to be of kind map. And there you can control the latitude and longitude if you want to. So it gives me a map. The map looks good. I'll just hit apply changes so far. And the neat thing about that query is that it's taking the latitude and longitude from the IP address. Like it's not taking an actual field with the latitude and longitude. So I'm figuring out the location based on the IP address itself. And then I'm pulling out from the output of that operator, the latitude, and the output of this operator, the longitude, so that I can send it to a map. So possibly the telemetry or the system that's collecting this fictitious traffic, it might not be sending me the geospatial info, but I'm still able to, in a single line, using one operator, convert the IP to geospatial. So that's pretty cool. All right, next let's do another visual. So I hit apply, new tile. And again, all of these are live queries. There's no import. It's taking the query itself and it's rendering the visual instantaneously. Kind of similar to what you'd expect out of Grafana. All right, so time chart. This one's going to be a time chart. So I'll do add visual. And we're doing a time chart. Something different that's new here is an anomaly chart. And an anomaly chart will plot the anomalies inside of the line chart itself automatically for you. You don't have to take a different metric and render that with a different and format the visual. It just works when you choose anomaly chart. So in this one, I want to do a time chart, which is time chart, because it doesn't have, notice how there's a series decompose forecast. So it's forecasting out 4 data points into the future. So the red line is my forecast and the blue line is the actual right? Because we're forecasting into the future. But if I had, this is some of the built-in machine learning operators inside of the engine. There's also series decompose anomalies, and that'll give me the, I think there's another visual here, so that it can plot the anomalies throughout that that chart. And another thing that happens beyond that is that some folks, not only do they want the visual representation, but they want to filter only the anomalies and prioritize the ones with the highest severity. So the point is that after you've rendered the visual, you can continue to pipe and do additional commands. So let me see if I have that. I should have that example in the next step. But anyways, this is average page load time. I hit apply there. The next one is my CTR, which is the click-through rate of impressions versus clicks. So I'll do another tile. This one is what, a KPI? Yeah, it's a stat. So I hit run, and then I'll do a stat, which is the same as a KPI. You could do multi-stat as well and have multiple KPIs inside of the same query. So this one is going to be impressions long, and then we'll call this one impressions. Impressions. So they have 317 impressions apparently in the last 7 days. Long is the data type, by the way. So let's save. And then next it wants me to do, oh, so duplicate this visual. Duplicate that tile. And then let's say I want to bring this down. Okay. Yeah, I can move it. And then we'll call this one what? Clicks. And then probably change this to clicks. All right, so then last but not least, the third one is the CTR, the click-through rate. So duplicate that again. Call it click-through rate. And change this to CTR. Right, so my rate is 13 out of 331. 38 people have clicked on it, so 13%. So we'll do some conditional formatting on as an optional, but I don't have the luxury of doing that right now. Let's do the anomalies because this one's pretty interesting. The visual formatting is what you'd expect. If you're familiar with Power BI, you can change the background to a color of based on a threshold and so on, and an icon, however you want. All right, so this one is another visual. So notice how it's doing the series decompose anomalies and it renders an anomaly chart. So here I'll choose anomaly chart. Boom. And it's plotting the anomalies for me so far. Hit apply. And then we'll focus on the strong anomalies, which is the very common use case. Hit new, strong anomalies. So it's taking the same query as before, possibly increasing the threshold. The default threshold is 1. And this is using the 2 keys fence test. So it has a baseline. You can pull out not just the anomalies if you want, you can pull out the baseline, the score. So you can control the threshold. The higher the threshold, the higher the deviation from the baseline, meaning the upper or lower bound of the fence of 2 keys algorithm. So what we'll do is we'll increase the threshold to get the anomalies that has the highest severity, and then expand the series of all of those anomalies and filter where the anomaly is not 0, meaning it's an anomalous record. And then we'll project away the anomalies themselves, because I don't need that as a dedicated column, just to show when the severity occurred. So if I change it possibly to 60 days, there's really not that much high severity. Let me lower the threshold, and you could do this as a parameter as well. Let me go to 1.9, maybe. Nope. 1.5. I got some there, but I mean, we wouldn't want 29 records, right? So that's why we're trying to increase the threshold in the demo. So if I go, maybe there's not that many anomalies. So anyways, the idea is that there's no high severity anomalies right now that I need to focus on in the last 60 days. So we'll keep it as the last 7 days. So this is fine, but you get the impression of having a sorted list that you can assign and dispatch someone to remedy those high severity anomalies. So this one, it was called strong anomalies. We'll rename that tile. I think we're 5 minutes left. Ceci, do you want me to continue, or I'm almost done though? Or do you want to stop here and go through Q&A? You know, folks have access to this. They can complete the hands-on lab on their own.
What does everybody say? I'm in step 12 yet.
Okay. But look, you know, I've ran this multiple times, so I can go through it at the speed that I just did. The expectation is really, it should take you maybe 2 hours, 4 at the most. But realistically, it is attainable to complete the lab in 2 hours. You know, I'd rather use the next 4 minutes for Q&A. If you have a discussion or a migration that you want to think about versus completing the lab, you can complete the lab on your own. And always like email Ceci or email me if you have any questions or difficulties. Try and finish it. So I'll stop the screen share here. We can just go through any questions that you may have.